Okay, so Tucker Carlson dropped the video and his analysis on the J6 footage. So he's had tens of thousands of hours of video for about a week or more. And he's sharing some things with us. And the reactions from the MSM are predictably, I don't know, hysterical. But well, let's see. Let's take a look at what Tucker Carlson has to say first.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson's and happy Monday. We're about to show you surveillance footage from inside the United States Capitol. The images you'll see were recorded 26 months ago today on January 6, 2021. Until now, politicians have kept this tape hidden from the public. There is no legitimate justification for that, and there never has been.
Now, what we're about to see, it shouldn't be a complete surprise because a lot of videos came out when this first happened. A lot of sort of like user phone videos being posted on Twitter and stuff like that. We all saw people just kind of like filing into the building, um, like a bunch of tourists. So, um, but let's see what Tucker has to say.
On January 6, 2 years ago, thousands of protesters walked from a Trump rally on the ellipse outside the White House to the U.S. Capitol, where the certification of the presidential election was underway. The protesters were angry. They believed that the election they had just voted in had been unfairly conducted, and they were right. In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy.
So yeah, I mean, on the J6 committee tried to make, um, I mean, well, not just a committee, but all these Democrats on Twitter and everything, they try to make it sound like um, Trump basically encouraged people, incited violence or whatever. Completely off base as far as inciting violence standards go, legally and just our ordinary understanding of things. Trump told a bunch of protesters, not protesters at that time, but um, he told a bunch of people that showed up to his rally to go to the Capitol and um, peacefully, um, you know, let their dissatisfaction known. Right? So, march peacefully were his words. Now, they try to make it, like they try to cherry pick all these instances where he said that, Trump was saying, we're going to fight this, we're going to fight that. Obviously, like when you heard the whole thing, you obviously, by context, um, it's fight politically. He didn't mean physical violence. There's so many other instances where Democrats are saying we're going to fight this, we're going to fight that. None of them mean physical violence, okay? If you take it to mean physical violence, you're completely idiotic. I don't know what else to tell you, but let's go.
Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it. Yet the beneficiaries of that election continue to lie about what is now obvious. The real crime, they will tell you again and again, is not what happened on Election Day 2020. The real crime is what happened 2 months later on January 6th, when Donald Trump led an insurrection against the duly elected American government.
Yeah, think long and hard about what the word insurrection means, right? It's completely ridiculous. What are these people gonna do anyway? Do you honestly think they can overthrow the government just by walking around in the Capitol building? Completely ridiculous.
To prove that claim,
Oh yeah, nobody was like killed or anything. Like definitely nobody was killed by the um, rioters present, or the few rioters that were present, and mostly just peaceful protesters that were present. I know mostly peaceful is just completely ruined by CNN and BLM protests, but um, riot, sorry. I mean, but think of the context, right? When CNN said the BLM riots were mostly peaceful, there was actually like buildings burning in the background as he said that. That's why it was funny. Now, in this case, were there any buildings burned? Were there any people killed? Uh, well, not by the protest um, people. Uh, Babbitt was killed, but by the Capitol Police. There were a couple people that died, but it is like heart attacks and different things. They try to sort of, they completely just lied or fabricated stories about how somebody was hit with a fire extinguisher or whatever. But no, that particular Capitol police officer died of a stroke, and the it was ruled by the coroner like it's just not even, there's nothing related to a violent act, violent strike to his head or anything. It was just a stroke. So you know nobody died, nothing got burned, nothing got like completely torched or anything. There were some broken windows by the rioters, definitely not good, but otherwise, yeah.
And to divert attention from the details of the presidential election itself, Democrats in Congress impaneled what they called the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. The point of that committee was to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. In December of last year, committee members voted
And to make an example of people who sided with Donald Trump. There are these people that are still in jail over January 6th, and it was like, over what? Like, in jail for like 2 years for over trespassing, which is basically all it was.
unanimously to refer Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Mission accomplished. But what the committee did not do was explain what happened inside the Capitol on January 6th. 3 weeks ago, thanks to the new Republican Speaker's office,
By the way, the trespassing thing, it's arguable because you'll see. Like, there's a lot of instances where people are just being waved in and stuff like that.
we gained access to thousands of hours of surveillance video that help answer that question. The January 6th committee had access to this very same tape and watched much of it. But as we're about to show you, committee members lied about what they saw and then hid the evidence from the public as well as from January 6th criminal defendants and their lawyers. That is unforgivable. Whatever you think of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we are grateful that he did. Before we show you the tape, a few words on the process. Our producers had unfettered access to the Capitol surveillance video.
Yeah, some people are saying, like, why didn't he just release it to everybody? I mean, that's fair. He could have done that, and that would have been good too. And the power of sort of like, I don't know, crowd analysis, it can be good too. But the problem is, you know, they already had months and months of the footage only by the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi could have released it at any time. So they had all this time. They tried to construct a narrative by cherry picking their own pieces. And now they give it to Tucker, and Tucker has his own thoughts on what's going on. Um, you can't seriously accuse Tucker of cherry picking after all that time of doing it yourself. And at this point, this would be a counter view to the cherry pick view that has been put out already. So we finally have sort of like an oppositional resistance against a main narrative. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it would be good to release it to the public, but do it after. Do it after Tucker has had some time to see the video and basically give his take on things, right? Um, a lot of people has said the same thing about the Twitter files. Like, if you just dump it on us, then there's going to be like this illusion of inconclusiveness because some people are gonna be like picking out these pieces, other people are gonna pick out other pieces, and they're gonna fight over it on Twitter. Basically, it's a tactic of muddying the waters until people just walk away from it. At least in this case, you know, if that was done from the beginning, that might have been fine. But the Democrats took time to construct their narrative. At this point, there's no choice. You have to give the oppositional side time to construct their narrative as a counterpoint. And then after that, maybe you can release a whole thing.
Neither the Speaker's office nor our bosses at Fox News interfered in any way with our investigation. Of the 40,000 or so hours of tape, most of it turned out to be irrelevant. Static shots of empty rooms, in some cases far from the Capitol itself.
Of course, what do you
To
expect?
find relevant videotape, our producers were given use of Capitol computers with advanced mapping software. That made it easy to find what we were looking for. What we didn't have was access to facial recognition software, and that was significant. For more than 2 years, we have wondered why some in the crowd that day who seemed to be inciting violence were never indicted for it. We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. And in fact, there were many examples of behavior we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. Men in civilian clothes holding doors open for protesters, escorting others through the Capitol, etc. We would love to know who these people were. But as of tonight, we don't know. And because we don't know, we're not going to put their faces on the screen and suggest they were federal agents. That would be irresponsible. So there were many mysteries we could not solve. Among them, unfortunately, is the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. From the evidence we have, the publicly available evidence, it seems clear that Babbitt was murdered by a Capitol Hill police officer called Michael Byrd. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. She was shorter in stature than average. She posed no conceivable threat to anyone. But beyond that, we can only speculate about what happened. There were no security cameras near the Speaker's lobby where Ashley Babbitt was killed. And one more thing. Virtually no one in Washington, Republican or Democrat, certainly not in the news media, wanted to see this tape released tonight. That's why it's remained hidden for more than 2 years. In recent weeks, the usual hyenas in Congress and on cable news have been howling about we are putting lives at risk by showing this tape to the public. Given that these are the very same people who support open borders and defunding the police, it is hard to take their complaints seriously. But we do take security seriously. So before airing any of this video, we checked first with the Capitol Police. We're happy to say their reservations were minor, and for the most part, they were reasonable. In the end, the only change that we made was in blurring the details of a single interior door in the Capitol building. You're unlikely even to notice it when we show you, and we are confident it does not affect our reporting. With that, here's the video. It doesn't answer every question from January 6th, far from it. But it does prove beyond doubt that Democrats in Congress, assisted by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, lied about what happened that day. They are liars. That is conclusive. And that fact should prevent them from ever being taken seriously again.
We all kind of knew that, but it'll be good to see it confirmed.
We're going to begin tonight with footage that shows you what was actually happening inside the Capitol. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Instead, it shows police escorting protesters through the building, including the now infamous QAnon shaman. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our...
Okay, that was the first video. Second video was released immediately after.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last...
Yep, notice they're all kind of handhelds and, you know, a lot of movement and shaking, just to make things seem more aggressive than it is. I mean, standard camera technique stuff, right?
2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen.
Yeah, so this is what happens. Like, if you don't see the balance of the situation, you just get one side to cherry pick for months and months. That's what you get. Now, you know, like, get the other side to tell their story. And then afterwards, after the other side gets to put up their narrative, then release the whole thing to the public. Why not?
That video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe that.
Yep, keep in mind the word uniparty, because there's going to be some people from the GOP side that's going to condemn Tucker's review of the videos as well.
We could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek.
So this goes towards a characterization of the crowd, right? You know, what is not, we're talking about a group. So when Tucker says, you know, it was mostly like a peaceful thing, he's not saying like everybody gets twisted over generals and universals. Look, when we talk in generals, when we make statements that sound like universals, they're not actually universals, they're generals most of the time, right? Universals are exceedingly rare in you know, in the natural world. You know, it's so bad that like when when you try to teach universal statements that are necessarily true, you have to almost fall back on like mathematics statements just to be, you know, just to deliver an example. Like, you know, something, you know, if something is, it is, and it can't be that it isn't. Like some weird statement like that, like artificial statements that it's tautologies, right? So when we're saying that the crowd was peaceful, or on the flip side, like the J6 committee has been saying, like they're an insurrectionist crowd, what matters is not that there was like it's not like a black or white thing. It's not, we're not saying like there was no acts of vandalism or violence or whatever, and we're not saying that it's every single person did vandalism and acts of violence. No, we're trying to get a sense of the overall characterization of the crowd. If like virtually, let's say, out of 10,000 people, 9,990 people were just peacefully protesting, would you say that's an insurrectionist crowd? No, I don't think so. Like 10 people don't get to characterize a crowd of 10,000, right? So the overall balance matters, and that's what we're trying to get at.
These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile.
Yeah, we saw all this on Twitter. Like they were taking selfies, with police.
They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once
To peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're gonna make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American
I don't know why, but I get Ian vibes from Timcast whenever I see this guy.
democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of
Yeah, man, they're like leading him. There's a couple guys following him. At every turn, they're like outnumbering this guy. It's not like they couldn't arrest him or whatever, or detain him, or whatever you wanna, you would have liked to. I mean, if he was out of control, I mean, they could have easily done that, but they're not. They're leading him around. They're trying to get him into places.
Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance.
9, dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, 10 if you count the guy following him.
Of unarmed Jacob Chansley.
11.
Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Opening the door for him, man.
Getting the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him! Shoot him! It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
He's just walking around being escorted. And you know, like, the Capitol Police are used to doing this because, like, the place is open to the public a lot. Right? It's not like some top secret building.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened. But it did. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch.
Yeah. So I'm sure Tucker's going to release more, but, you know, at least right now he's focusing on QAnon Shaman because he's such a recognizable guy and he's been so vilified, but it's cartoonishly wrong, right? He's just kind of walking around being escorted by the police and they're kind of showing him around and trying to get him into places. Now, this is funny. Let's take a look at, okay, we're going to look at some reactions by Chuck Schumer, which is completely off the hinge, by the other side of the Uniparty, McConnell, and also by the press that support the Uniparty. We'll take a look at some headlines as well. They're all hilarious.
Segment last night
Here's Chuck Schumer.
arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection. By diving deep into the waters of conspiracy and cherry picking from.
What do you mean conspiracy and cherry picking? He showed videos, right? He showed videos a lot of people just kind of peacefully walking around, and especially of the QAnon shaman guy. Now, Chuck Schumer cannot say. So here we get back to the characterization. How do you get to call? What does it take to call a crowd a bunch of insurrectionists, right? Now, let's say we have 40,000 hours of footage, and let's throw away all the empty footages. Let's only take the footage where there are people seen on the camera shot. Now, how do we characterize it? Let's think about it, right? What is it? How many people multiplied by minutes or hours? Like basically people times unit of time divided by, like maybe, so let's divide it into peaceful people and not peaceful people. And then like, let's call it peaceful people like group A and not peaceful people group B. And like I mean they can be some crossovers too, right? Because people can be peaceful one time and then not peaceful another time. Now let's do a count. How many people are being peaceful in a video and then divide or multiply by the amount of time that they're being peaceful or not being peaceful. So let's take all the people that are not being peaceful, multiply by the amount of time that they're not being peaceful, and then divide that by like a product of a number of people being peaceful and the amount of time that they're being peaceful. So what's a ratio? If it's like 0.5%, can you call the group an insurrectionist group? No. If it's like 99%, then do you get to call the group insurrectionist group? Obviously, yes. So where falls the balance? Now, Chuck Schumer only showed us a cherry-picked his side of the story of only the snippets that showed, but let's compare. Like you can't prove either way. You can't say that the crowd was peaceful or not peaceful just by showing snippets. So technically, I mean, uh, Tucker Carlson can't really definitively say this is proof. I've shown it. I've shown proof that this is a peaceful crowd. And Chuck Schumer can't say, we've shown proof in the J6 Commission that this was an insurrectionist crowd. Neither one of them can say they show the proof of it because they've only shown snippets, right? Both of them. Now, they can say it was an insurrectionist crowd based on what I've seen, although I haven't proven it to you by showing all the evidence. Um, so, and Tucker Carlson's basically doing the same thing. I can say, according to Tucker Carlson, it was an entirely peaceful protest, except for a few, and that he's seen footage, evidence to support that, although he's not capable of showing all that evidence in a couple of minutes of video, right? But hopefully this information comes out in public and we can decide for ourselves, or somebody can run an analysis on it or whatever. But yeah, so Chuck Schumer, like whatever he's saying right now, it's a complete lie. He can't say that it was an insurrection and that he proved it.
Thousands of hours of security footage. Mr. Carlson told.
Okay, so he's saying that Tucker cherry-picked from thousands of hours of security footage. Now, Chuck Schumer, did you show us thousands of hours of security footage? No. And if he selected them, obviously you're doing the cherry-picking too.
the bold-faced lie that the Capitol attack, which we all saw with our own eyes, was somehow not an attack at all.
No, that's not what he said. He didn't say that the Capitol attack wasn't an attack at all. Look, if there was an attack portion by some people, those attacks were attacks, right? But like, let's be very clear, precise with our language. This makes no sense. You can't just say stuff like attack on the Capitol. Who attacked what? What actions were taken? Which individuals took what actions? Did they break down the door? Did they kidnap people? Did they do this or that? Like, as far as I know, none of the politicians inside were, uh, you know, kidnapped, killed, or threatened, or anything like that in their face. It wasn't. It was definitely not like a Canadian FLQ situation. It was just people kind of coming in and milling around. So, all right, what's your evidence?
He tried to argue it was nothing more than a peaceful sightseeing tour.
For most people, that's true.
Can you imagine? A
Yes,
nonviolent
I can
demonstration.
imagine.
A perfectly fine and appropriate instance of people expressing their opinion.
For most people, yes.
So many others who were here in the Capitol, and millions of Americans are just furious with Tucker Carlson and Kevin McCarthy today.
Why? Show us a ratio and show us a reasoning and show us the data. So what percentage of people and what percentage of time of those people was there non-peaceful protest? Was there violence or destruction or whatever? Give us the data.
Many of my staff were here at the Capitol on January 6th. Their lives were put in danger, as were the lives of many of my colleagues, as
No, you guys felt like you were in danger. It wasn't the same thing.
well as police, maintenance staff, reporters, countless others. At one point, I was within 30 feet of the rioters. One of them, I was told, shouted out, "Let's get him."
Oh yeah? Did you see all those videos of all those police people that were definitely closer than 30 feet within the protesters? And they were just kind of walking around and there was no violence going down?
Before my detail pulled me away and we ran in the other direction. To say January 6th was not violent is a lie.
He didn't say it was violent, or he didn't say it was not violent. He said there were some rioters and there was some, vandalism going on, and those people were wrong. He said that. Now, the question is, what ratio of people and how much time was the peaceful people compared to the not peaceful people? That's the question. You're deliberately casting it as a black or white. All of this, like all peaceful or not. And you're deliberately doing that just to trick people with your stupid universals confusion with generalities.
A lie, pure and simple.
No, it's not
I
pure
don't
and
think
simple.
I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers.
Oh, really? Uh, just take a look at CNN, NBC, and ABC, and all of them.
The way Mr. Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain. And he's
No disdain detected, bro.
going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to.
They're panicking. Like they're just like they're afraid of what Tucker's going to say again, and they're trying to do preliminary damage control. It's hilarious.
Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. You know it's a lie. You've admitted it's a lie.
More censorship. More censorship. How about you let Tucker tell the story and then you counter it with facts if you have any?
And Speaker McCarthy is every bit as culpable as Mr. Carlson. Speaker McCarthy's decision to share security footage with Fox looked like a mistake from the very beginning.
He should have shared it with everybody. You know what? You guys should have shared it with everybody, right? But you didn't. Nancy Pelosi could have done it. You guys didn't. So basically, you wanted months and months to construct your narrative based on the data that only you had, but you don't want to afford the other side the same privilege. So you either want to keep it hidden and keep it a one-sided presentation, one narrative, one narrative. There are some people saying that, like release it to the public, but you know what? It's too late for that. You give one side months and months to give their construct their narrative. You need the counterbalance.
But after last night, it looks like a disaster.
Not a disaster.
Speaker McCarthy has played a treacherous game by catering to the hard right.
You know what? It's like people that use emotional language in a rational argument completely give themselves away every time. They have nothing going rationally. They don't have anything going on. They have no facts going on their side. So all they do is just dig down into the emotions of things using poisonous words.
He's enabled the big lie and has further eroded away at our precious democracy. When people don't believe elections are on the level, that's the beginning.
Tucker didn't lie about anything. He just showed the videos and gave his own thoughts about what he was seeing.
Of the end of this bold experiment in democracy that has gone on for more than 200 years. It's all the more shameful because Speaker McCarthy.
And think about the arrogance, right? He's saying that he can protect a democracy by controlling information in the way that he sees fit and not letting the public know. Completely crazy.
McCarthy knows precisely what kind of customer Mr. Carlson is. He's not surprised by this outcome. What a low point for Speaker McCarthy.
No, the low point was a J6 commission. That was hilarious.
What a low point for Fox News. As reporting on the Dominion lawsuit shows, Mr. Carlson had no problem admitting behind the scenes that the big lie is pure garbage.
No. He had reservations about it, but like as a news organization, you let people with their strong ideas speak, and it was a legal challenge, and you let it get slapped down by the judges. You don't decide as a reporter that you're going to slap it down yourself. It's not for you to decide.
Sidney Powell went on the air to push the stolen election narrative. Mr. Carlson told fellow anchor Laura Ingraham that Sidney Powell is lying. His words by the deposition. Mr. Carlson's own producer texted him that, quote, "I don't think there is evidence of voter fraud that swung the election."
I don't think. Look, people can have opinions of all sorts of things, and people can be very certain in their own opinions, but at the end of the day, that's still their opinions, right? Tucker Carlson is not the court of law. Tucker Carlson is not reviewing the specific evidence or whatever and determining things. He's just platforming people that already have these mechanisms in place. The mechanism which completely failed, by the way. And it's you let them speak, and if they're wrong, they're wrong.
They know full well they've been lying, and they're doing it anyway. We all, Americans of all types and stripes and corners of this country,
and this is coming from like Chuck Schumer, the guy behind the party that has been lying about all sorts of things. Like, look at all the lies that have been coming out, right? So, where the COVID virus likely originated. you know, what Fauci's response has been, which was to actually commission a study to purposely say that it couldn't have come up from Wuhan um, immunology lab or whatever, gain of function research. Um, the narrative about vaccines and kids and how it's, you know, uh, adverse reactions versus its benefits. The vaccine's long-term benefits. How if you got vaccinated, you can't get COVID. How it's completely safe and there's nothing to worry about, right? How lockdowns are effective and we need to do it. That just came out of, that's completely garbage. How vaccination during a pandemic, it's always been done after a pandemic, not during, because it encourages evolution of the virus to something hard to control in the end. How vaccination during the pandemic was a good thing. It's just how masks were effective. Like recent studies show that masks were basically useless, except for N95, maybe 17, 18% effective, something like that. Um, in the long run, which even that didn't mean anything. And those are only like properly fitted ones, which were admittedly quite uncomfortable to wear, according to the study participants.
Democrats, Republicans, Independents need to take a stand and call out Mr. Carlson's conduct for what it is, a dangerous, unforgivable attempt to destabilize our democracy and
Look, I'm not interested in statements that are not backed by any reasoning or facts. So this is just statement after statement that I'm just going to completely ignore.
rewrite the history of the worst attack on our Constitution since the Civil War.
Since the Civil War.
It's an insult to every police officer who was on the scene that terrible, fearful day. It's an insult to the memory of every single person who perished in connection to the attack.
Who perished in connection to the attack? Well, in connection with. But who perished because of the protesters? Nobody. You know, Ashley Babbitt died uh, because of the Capitol Police shot her.
Especially to the memory of Brian Sicknick.
Brian Sicknick, he died of a stroke.
Nonviolent? Ask the Sicknick family. It makes me sick just thinking about what his family must be going through this morning. And it's an insult to everyone who cares about our democracy and wishes to preserve the dream of our founders in our day, in our age. I hope every member of this chamber will call out Fox and Mr. Carlson for defending the insurrectionists. And again, I am disappointed and angered in Speaker McCarthy's decision to share sensitive security footage with Mr. Carlson.
Sensitive how? Sensitive how? Like, you don't think people don't have the layout of that building? Like, that building is very open to the public. You know, anybody that wanted to figure out the layout of the building, they already know the layout if they wanted to figure it out.
Speaker McCarthy was here that day. He knows what actually happened. His staff and members suffered like everyone else, but he chose
Not really,
cheap
bro.
political expediency over truth and preservation of democracy.
Always accuse the other side of what you're doing yourself.
For siding with the enemies of democracy. I strongly condemn Speaker McCarthy's actions and fiercely oppose his decision to share this footage with Carlson. I urge Fox News to order Carlson to cease propagating the big lie on his network and to level.
What's a big lie? They use the word big lies for so many things now that it lost all meaning. What's a big lie now? Like, it used to mean that there were election shenanigans, which we pretty much know there was a lot of it. It used to mean that the election wasn't legitimate or something, and then it meant like casting any aspersion on the election at all. And now it's a big lie because Tucker hasn't even talked about that. I guess Tucker said that there were problems with elections. He did say that. That's a big lie? Or are you talking about the J6 and its characterization? I don't even know what he's talking about anymore. Be specific.
With their viewers about the truth behind the efforts to mislead the public.
What truth?
Conduct like theirs is just asking for another January 6th.
Okay, another tourist visit.
Now on another subject.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious how hard they're panicking. Now let's see in case you think that it's all Democrats, uniparty is a uniparty. Here's McConnell on the other side, from the GOP side.
With the Capitol Police's very serious concerns about the release of this footage, was it a mistake by Speaker McCarthy to give access to Tucker Carlson?
The reporter says, was it a mistake for McCarthy to give footage to Tucker Carlson?
Security footage.
My concern is how it was depicted, which is a different issue. Clearly, the chief of the Capitol Police, in my view, correctly describes what most of us witnessed firsthand on January 6th. So that's my reaction to it. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
Yeah, sorry. No, we don't trust the statement of one person. It doesn't matter who it is. We would rather see the footage ourselves. And until we can do that, we would rather have somebody present the counterpoint to the months of J6 committee nonsense that they've been trying to spin together. Completely spineless. McConnell, it's just, yeah, he's the other part of the uniparty.
Following up on what Ronnie said, Tucker Carlson has already teased another round of videos that are going to be released today. I understand that you're upset with the way that Fox is depicting it, but he's been forecasting.
I don't know if he released it yet, but I can't wait to see it.
This for months, asking for this access to this footage to have a presentation just like this. Was it a mistake for the speaker to hand that?
You guys know I have many faults, but one of them is not answering the question in a way that I don't want to answer it. I've given you the answer.
Why do you think there are some within your party who don't want to acknowledge January 6th as an attack or an insurrection?
Because it wasn't an insurrection. What the hell was a handful of people gonna do, like with the building? Do you really think like in 2020 they could have overthrown the entire United States government just by like wandering around the building?
Shall I give you the same answer again? Anybody want to ask me something different?
Please, spineless.
Here at everyone.
All right, so let's take a look at some. This is going to be hilarious. Let's take a look at some of the headlines. NBC News: Tucker Carlson with video provided by Speaker McCarthy falsely depicts January 6th riot as a peaceful gathering. Well, how do you know it's false? Where's the data? All right, so The Hill, Tucker Carlson's January 6th footage sparks bipartisan outrage. You know, some people think like The Hill is like they actually report news truthfully or whatever. They don't, obviously. I mean, I've seen them so many times lie about things or just carry water for the same narrative that the other MSMs are taking. Anyway, Newsweek. Republicans break with Kevin McCarthy, Tucker Carlson over January 6 footage. Okay, how many? you mean like the McConnell and the Uniparty? Newsweek. January 6th defendant uses Tucker Carlson footage to bid for freedom. Well, they should be freed. 2 years is way too long for, um, and some of them are, going to be in jail for like 4 years, right? Too long for just a trespass or whatever. Charlie Kirk show. Well, the flip side, right? Tucker Carlson studying new J6 footage with Mike Davis. Okay, that's cool. It's interesting. Newsweek. Mitch McConnell's Fox News denouncement sends MAGA into meltdown. Nobody's going into meltdown over McConnell. Nobody cares about McConnell from the MAGA. McConnell's never been taken seriously. He is the uniparty. He's just nobody cares, man. It's expected behavior. Ricochet. Who's Ricochet? Tucker Super Juicy J6 coverage. Biden's brain is shot. Okay. Right. I don't know who Ricochet is, but seems to be very pro Tucker. Fox News. Elon Musk tortures January 6th committee for misleading the public, withholding evidence. DP wrong. Okay. Well, Fox News, you would expect that. Well, maybe, because Fox News is not always aligned with base views. The press enterprise. McCarthy reportedly gave Fox host Tucker Carlson access to J6 videos. Okay, that's 2 weeks ago. Whatever. Um, anything else that's recent? Where are they all? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what Tucker Carlson's releasing today, but I can't wait to see it. That's what we have so far.